Good afternoon and welcome to the 206th episode of the Georgia Farm Bureau Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. Happy March, everyone. Today's show, we're going to recap day one of the quarterfinals. There's a lot of good games last night. The majority of the girls were played, a couple boys results as well. And then we're going to look at tonight's big matchups. We had a great interview with McEachern's head coach, Tremaine Ankrum, yesterday. He talked in depth about this upcoming matchup with Wheeler, gave me a lot of confidence in what the Indians have done this season, some of the injuries, the difficult schedule they've conquered so far, the young pieces that have stepped up, and just the magnitude of the game overall. And really is one of the biggest high school basketball games in the country this season. He said the game sold out in 5 minutes. So we'll get into that. We actually have clips from the interview that Najee was able to get uploaded despite the internet being in and out today. And then we're going to be joined in the final segment by Jordan Dubrof. He's been busy. He's obviously been tracking these playoff results. He's excited for the semifinals. We'll see what classifications he's looking forward to most. I think he might plan on going down to 4A with me to cover that. And, yeah, I saw Jordan the other week. He was at Publix. He ran into Coach Bruner. He was talking football with him. So Jordan's just always networking, always doing a great job, and has a huge passion for sports, the city of Atlanta, the state of Georgia, and just everything going on. He is always in tune. But let's go ahead and get started with last night's results up in 7A. Brookwood faced a very hot South Forsyth team. Came into the game, I think, with like a 15-game win streak. Coach Gravitt had just got, I think, his 300th career win. And Brookwood was coming off a really competitive second-round win over Carrollton. But they definitely handled business last night, 74-58 victory. And a great recap by Casey Sager, my sister. She was covering 7A last night. Brookwood had a 19-0 run in the third quarter to pull away in that game. That is just devastating. To be in a game with the number one ranked team and just have no answers for a 19-0 run like that. That gave them a 55-37 lead heading into the final quarter, and then they held on for that 16-point victory, 74-58. And that was Deanna Collins, Brookwood's star guard, 21 points. Junior Kate Pelhan had 12. Senior Kennedy Daniels had 10. So a great overall performance right there. And then also, Danielle Osho, the sophomore power forward, had 22 points. So Brookwood has 4 girls getting double figures. Deanna Collins with 21, Osho with 22, and then Forsyth, South Forsyth had Sharon Tolliver finish with a game-high 18 points. So Brookwood is going to be awaiting the winner of tonight's game, and that's Central Gwinnett at McEachern. McEachern has a doubleheader tonight with that game preceding the Wheeler boys at McEachern. So that'll be a huge night over in Powder Springs. So they'll await that winner. Also, Buford had a big win over North Paulding, the 2 seed. North Paulding had some big wins this season, including a win over South Forsyth, but Buford just looked really good, and they also had a huge run. It was a 15-0 run in the fourth quarter. Then they cruised with a 66-42 victory. Looks like, yeah, so 21-9 after the first, 38-21 at the half. So Buford is going to await the winner of Archer at Norcross. And so that is another outstanding doubleheader that's going to take place in 7A tonight. There'll be Archer at Norcross girls and then Newton at Norcross boys. So, man, you really can't lose with either of those doubleheaders. Just wish there was a way to watch them both. But we'll have the post-game coverage at Score Atlanta to inform you on how those games were won. And we obviously will have the semifinal coverage also. We'll be working on a guide for that, getting all the rosters, and an overall preview. And that will probably focus on the historical context on who has kind of made their return to the semis, who's there for the first time, and any potential rematches. But let's go to the girls 6A. I think at this point only one of the teams that I said was my pick to win it all this year has lost, and that was Rockdale County. They lost to Hughes last night, 61-53. I think Najee had that recap, so let's go ahead and go over it right now. So Hughes is advancing to the Final Four after pulling away from Rockdale County with a 22-point fourth quarter. So they really lit it up to close it out. It was 39-37 heading into the decisive fourth. Michaela Taylor led Hughes with 24 points and 18 rebounds, a massive performance. And Hughes has now scored over 60 points in 15 of its last 29 games this season. And doing that against Rockdale County is not easy. So that's just a signature win for number 1 ranked Hughes. I think this puts them in position to compete for this title. We talked about 6A, all these different schools that were in the mix, whether it's Marist, River Ridge, Rockdale County, who they just beat, Lovejoy. And to have that win over Rockdale County, that is huge. So the winner of that game is now going to play River Ridge, who finally cracked the code on Marist. Marist in its last 10 games was probably allowing 30, maybe even 29 points per game because they held some of those region opponents to just 12 and 10 points. And so they won 61-43. That's got to be the highest point total anyone scored on Marist this year. It was a 28-15 lead at the half. So not only did they find success offensively, their defense also really locked down Marist. And Marist just has that ability to really own possessions, make the game tough. And we even saw that with the boys team against Grovetown last week. That was a 3-point game at the half before Grovetown pulled away. So that's just what Marist does on the court, but a big win for River Ridge. Sophomore Caleb Cleveland led River Ridge with 17 points and 9 rebounds. And then Marist is kind of a one-man show on that one. That was Katie Harpering. The freshman had 23 points and 7 rebounds. So River Ridge and Hughes, that will be a big matchup in the semifinals. Lovejoy also looked really good. They're the number 3 seed out of that stacked Region 3. But they actually got to host because number 4 seed Gainesville advanced in the last round, and Lovejoy absolutely dominated 79-34, a huge victory for them. It was a 25-9 run in the second quarter, and then they held on for a 45-point victory. Lovejoy is going to play Brunswick next. Brunswick is the top seed, so they'll host. Actually, they won't host. It will be at a neutral site. But they won 59-47 over Sequoia. So the Final Four is set in Class 6A girls. It's going to be Lovejoy, Brunswick, Langston Hughes, and River Ridge. So great matchups right there. Down in 5A, we had a couple boys games going on last night. Big win for Jones County, the number 4 seed, over Hiram. That game came down to the wire. I think it was a last-second layup. That was Dathan Harris. He had a layup with 26 seconds left. That put him up 54-53. And then I'm sure they probably iced the game with a pair of free throws after that. So they got the 3-point victory over Hiram. That will set them up with a showdown with Eagles Landing, who I think they've only lost the one game this season. They're 28-1, and they beat a great Mays team last night. They got off to a huge lead, 40-26 at the half. That team just has so much depth, so many different guys that contribute in unique ways. They all bring something to the table, and I think that's the big pending matchup. But can Jones County this weekend pull off what would be a massive upset against Eagles Landing? Be really interesting to see. Tonight we're going to have Union Grove against Chapel Hill, and then Dutchtown at Kell on the boys' side. On the girls' side, 5A already set its Final Four. That's going to be Kell against Maynard Jackson, and then Warner Robins against Calhoun. Kell last night had a 73-60 victory over Dutchtown. I've got to say, I think Kell the last 4 seasons has been this far into the playoffs, but they still have never won a state title. Let's see, junior center Peyton Marshall led Kell with 17 points. Junior C.J. Brown had 16 points. Oh, this is labeled wrong. Hold on one sec. Let me recant that last statement. That's the Kell's boys I'm reading right there. It is labeled as girls on our post. Let me fix that. Yeah, don't want to confuse anyone. I'm like, where's Crystal Henderson's name? Okay, so the Kell girls, they did win last night. That was against Bradwell Institute, 68-54. And then the Kell boys, they beat Dutchtown. So both teams for the Longhorns advance as predicted. And so that's going to be on the girls' side, Kell against Maynard Jackson. Yeah, Warner Robins against Calhoun. We'll have that changed right there. Okay, so only one boys matchup remaining in 5A. That's going to be Union Grove and Chapel Hill. It should be a really good game tonight. Oops, sorry. All right, in 4A, there was no boys action last night. But on the girls' side, there was a really significant result in my mind, and that was Baldwin beating Luella 58-51. That was Luella's first loss within Class 4A this season, a really tough result for them. They played one of the most difficult and challenging schedules for any 4A team. A lot of national powerhouses from Florida. They had their eye on getting that state title this year after making it to the finals, but they ended up falling up short, 58-51. Baldwin has a lot of size down low. Janae Walker is tremendous, and she utterly dominated, 23 points and 15 rebounds in that game. And then Madison Ruff had 15.6 rebounds, 4 assists and 4 steals, and then Cassidy Neal added 13 points. Those 3 girls right there were able to just dominate the game, pretty much scored 90% of Baldwin's points, and just won that matchup, overwhelmed them with the size down low and defense. And that was a 25-24 game at the half, and then they pulled away. So that's the Luella girls, and then, the Baldwin girls, who come out of that region with Griffin. They've been hot. They split with Griffin. That gave them the 2 seed. But then the team that I've been saying that looks really dangerous is Holy Innocents. They lost to Westminster early, and then they won 20 straight since. They beat Westminster pretty badly in the rematch of that loss back in, I think, late November, December. But they just had a 63-32 win over Trinity Christian, and that was actually on the road. They were one of the 10 number 1 ranked teams that were on the road, or are on the road this round, Wheeler being another one. But they jumped out to a 37-13 lead against the Lions. They dominated all facets. It's their 20th straight win, and they've now outscored their 3 playoff opponents by 37 points per game heading into that matchup against Baldwin. So Baldwin will definitely have its hands full, but I like the way they were able to beat Luella. That's a tremendous team right there with a lot of talent, so maybe they can do it against the Golden Bears. We will see. The other matchup in 4A, Hardaway had a great win over Northwest Whitfield. They led 37-34 heading into the fourth and held on for a 48-42 victory. It's their 11th straight. And they got off to a ridiculous start. They were up 13-0 before Northwest Whitfield even scored. They were able, so they took a 17-4 lead after the first quarter. Northwest Whitfield cut it to 25-16, a 9-point game. They eventually, as I said, got within 3 to start the fourth, but just ran out of steam. So I think if it wasn't for that dreadful start, 13-0 run for Hardaway to open the game, Northwest Whitfield might have had a better result. Nonetheless, their young team, I think that was their first quarterfinal appearance in quite some time. A win would have put them in the semis for the first time since 1967 or something. So a tough result for them, but when you start off a game with a 17-4 hole, it's tough to overcome that. And then Griffin looked good. They beat an outstanding Chesadee team 63-47. They used a 12-0 scoring run in the second quarter to go up 31-21 at the half. So they were trailing by 2, dominated to close out the half, and then led 50-29 heading into the fourth. So Griffin and Hardaway, Baldwin against Holy Innocents. Great matchups right there. So the 4A boys will be tonight. Let's go ahead, though, and take a quick break before we get into these remaining matchups and look into the big 7A matchup tonight between Wheeler and McEachern. So we're going to thank our sponsors, Georgia Farm Bureau.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are our Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. So I'm going to go over some more of the results from last night. Let's go to the 3A girls, where I think it's starting to get really interesting. 3A, the big game tonight, though. On the boys' side, Sandy Creek at Johnson-Savannah. That is going to be up there with the Newton, Norcross, Wheeler, McEachern right there. That game is massive. It's going to have a state championship feel. But in 3A girls, Wesleyan, they're obviously new to 3A. They've won many state championships. I think they might have the most out of Gwinnett. Been dominating the lower classifications, but they beat a great Carver Columbus team last night, 78-71. Great offensive production from the Wolves, and that's Audrey Akubla. She had 20 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. Teammate Chazadi Wright, 19 points and 8 rebounds. And then Eva Garabadian had 17 points and 6 rebounds. And Johanna Potter, 14 points, 7 rebounds. So not only 4 players in double figures, way up there in double figures. So they really lit it up. And they are going to play Hebron Christian next, which watch out for them. I think Wesleyan can give them a great game, but Hebron improved to 30-0 with a 98-25 win over Mary Persons. Just a massive blowout. And when you have an undefeated team playing at that level, they're definitely the favorite right now. That is a scary result right there if you're in that 3A bracket, 98-25. So it looks like they, let's see who, yeah, Jakara Butler, she had 27 points, 10 rebounds, 6 steals. Aubrey Beckham, 20 points, 12 rebounds, 14 assists. Shout out to Aubrey Beckham for the triple-double. That's outstanding. Junior guard Amaya Porter had 12 points and 3 steals. And Kayla Lane had 12 points, 4 rebounds. And then Nakia Daniel, 9 points and 5 rebounds. So 98 points, one of the highest scoring efforts we've seen on the girls' side this season, coming really close to 100 points. And they look really good. So that will be a great matchup. Wesleyan against Hebron Christian. We're also going to have Calvary Day against Lumpkin County. I think Lumpkin County was my pick to win it. We will see, though. But let's go over what happened in those games. Calvary Day, 59-32 win over Dawson County. Senior point guard for Calvary Day, Hannah Kale, had a buzzer beater at the end of the third quarter to give her 2,000 career points. That's exciting. And then it looks like she finished with 23 points, a game high. Destiny Gooding had 17 points. And Molly Smith, a freshman, this is a good sign for Calvary Day. She had 15 points, all of which came on three-pointers. So keep that in mind. I always said Lumpkin County was a great three-point shooting team, but it looks like Calvary Day has a weapon as well, and that's going to help create opportunities for Hannah Kale. And then Lumpkin County, 63-48 win over Cross Creek. They are the reigning state champs. Obviously, those other schools in that field are all new to the classification. But let's see, they're in the semifinals for the third straight time. They were on the road last night. And I think that might have, let me see. I'm going to check something real quick. That might have been a matchup between two defending champs.
Damn, Hebron Christian hasn't lost this year?
No, yeah. So those were the, Cross Creek and Lumpkin County. Cross Creek won 3A in 2021. Lumpkin County won it last year. So that was a big matchup. Two of 3A's top powerhouses, but Lumpkin County is able to get the win. Senior point guard Lexi Pierce, 19 points. Junior shooting guard Avery Jones, 15 points. And then power forward Kate Jackson had 9 points for Lumpkin County. So that would be a big matchup as well. I like that one. Calvary Day, their freshman. Who was that again? Let's see. Yeah, Molly Smith, the freshman Molly Smith with 5 3-pointers in that win over Dawson County. Great matchups right there. Wesleyan against Hebron, Calvary Day against Lumpkin County. On the two-way girls front, Josie had a 47-38 win over Murray County. They're going to take on Banks County, who beat Central Macon 61-56. And then Landmark Christian defeated 4-seeded Butler 66-42. And then they're going to take on Mount Perrin, who is now 30-1. They beat Thompson 54-43. They have an 18-game win streak, and Mount Perrin's only loss this season was a 2-point loss to Brookwood way early in the season. So they look really good. Then a couple other results. Elbert County, I like them in 2A. I think they are the defending, they are the defending 2A state champs. They're still in it. And they beat Swainsboro 63-49. They were actually down early 17-13 after the first quarter, but held Swainsboro to just 6 points and then pushed their lead to 5 at the half and then cruised to the victory. St. Francis also advanced. They had an 84-45 win over Lamar County. So Galloway is going to play Elbert County, and then St. Francis is going to play Woodville Tompkins, who had a 64-44 win over Oglethorpe County. And then in Class A Division II, Taylor County, that's my pick to win it all. They were at home. They had a 64-35 win over Randolph Clay. They're 28-1 on the season. They're going to play Clinch County, who beat Towns 56-41, and then Lake Oconee County 58-23 win over Turner County. They're going to play Mount Zion Carroll, who won 46-38 over Wilcox County. And the boys' games will be tonight in Class A Division I, Class A Division II, all of 2A. Big matchup between Columbia on the road at Windsor Forest, Spencer at Providence Christian. That's a big game. Dodge County at Model, and then South Atlanta at Westside Augusta. Tremendous matchups in 2A boys tonight. Those will probably start around 6:30. And our recaps will probably be up around 9:30 or 10. But now I want to get into the big matchup tonight, the one everyone's going to be talking about, and that's McEachern at Wheeler. Wheeler is the highest ranked boys basketball program in the state of Georgia right now nationally.
Number 25.
Number 25, so they just cracked the top 25. They've played this really tough national schedule. They haven't lost within the state of Georgia yet. Their big game against Newton, we all saw what happened there. They've been cruising in the playoffs. They came out of a tough region that still has 3 teams in the playoffs. That's Cherokee, Walton, and the Wildcats. And we had a great conversation yesterday. You can find the whole thing on our YouTube page, the Score Atlanta YouTube page. And that's with head coach Tremaine Ankrum. He hasn't been at McEachern too long, but he was probably the lead AAU coach within Cobb County and the metro area for years. Led guys like Jalen Brown, who played at Wheeler. So really just was cultivating all that talent. And then he lands at McEachern, obviously knows what that school's about. And his team right now, on paper, probably one of the few teams that has the guys that can match up across the court from Wheeler's incredible talent, like Isaiah Collier, who we mentioned is the #1 player in the country. He's going to Southern Cal. He's a point guard, but he gave us a lot of insight into what he expects from the matchup. But then I thought the best part of the interview was his take on just the scale of the game, how a lot of teams would be happy to play on their home court, but he says really it's a missed opportunity because so many people are interested in this game and a lot of them are not going to get to see it. He did say it is going to be streamed on some platform. We'll definitely tweet it out as soon as we find that information out in case you're interested in watching it. But he said, yeah, the game sold out in 5 minutes. There's students who won't get to go. He's having to, I guess the fire marshal might have to get tipped off because he said there's college coaches that are calling him trying to get on the list to get in. I mean, it's just going to be insane. And then you have the McEachern girls playing before it. So they could have filled a big arena. They're going to be at max capacity. But what he was saying is, what if there was a power ranking system for the playoffs after the region tournament? For one, I would happily volunteer myself to get on a voting committee. We do rankings anyway. I think if you had the right people, it's worked in football before with the power rankings, not in every classification, but within Class A in recent years. But it is tough. I mean, this is how the bracket goes. Nothing against the other teams. I mean, we already said Newton and Norcross is probably capable of being just as outstanding of a game, but it's like this is a matchup, undoubtedly the top matchup in the country tonight in terms of high school basketball. And it's just a shame that it's not just in a big arena. But we'll have that conversation later, I suppose. But it's just really epic. And then, I mean, when I was at Walton, I used to go to these games all the time. We'd always get beat by McEachern and Wheeler. Things haven't changed too much. Walton has had an outstanding year. But it's like I remember going and seeing Josh Smith play for McEachern before he transferred to Oak Hill. I remember seeing Jalen Brown play for Wheeler. All these other guys. I mean, these two programs have had so much incredible talent. The game is just going to be insane. Anyone that watched that Wheeler-Newton game, I mean, we all watch college basketball in the NBA, but in these playoff type big games with these 5 stars, McDonald's All-Americans, these are 8-minute quarters. There's a shot clock now, the 35-second one. The pace of the game is just insane. Can't take any possession off. I mean, it is nonstop. The games don't last that long, and so it really just, I mean, having 2 hours of Wheeler McEachern to watch, I mean, that's literally must-see action right there. So we'll be following it closely, but let's go ahead. We'll check out the clips from the interview, and we'll talk about it afterwards. But we'll go ahead and start with the first clip. I think he's just talking about who's leading his team and what he thinks about the individual matchup.
It'll be special. Obviously, Isaiah Collie is the top player in the country, but you got some horses with you too. JaMychal Davis, he's been having a great season. Rutgers commit Moses Hips as your point guard. Just what do you think of that backcourt matchup, and what do you need to see tonight to kind of, help you punch the ticket into the Final Four from that backcourt?
I believe that the 2 best point guards in the state of Georgia are playing tomorrow night, and I think that what people are going to see is they're going to see a big time matchup between JaMychal Davis and Isaiah Collier. I think that's going to be very, very intense matchup that you're going to see, because you got 2 guards that play both ends of the floor, and so you don't have a guard that just waits and only plays one side of the floor. And so I think that's what's going to be special about it. I think my job is I got to make sure that JaMychal is not, he's not overexcited to play it, because the kid is just so focused and playing, against this game, but he's focused for every game. And then we start talking about my shooting guard, Moses Hips. I mean, I honestly believe Moses Hips is the best shooter in the country, hands down. I mean, I've seen him in practice days where he doesn't hit the rim. I mean, forget going in. I mean, he doesn't hit the rim. And so, between that and then we got the young boy coming up with Jaden Bynes and Christian Curl. So, we got bodies, but we also got, basketball players. And like I said, it starts at the head of the snake, and the head of the snake is JaMychal Davis, and he's going to make sure we're set and we're in place. And so it's going to be a great matchup.
Yeah, and every playoff game is a big one. You are obviously familiar with Cobb County basketball.
And then my question for you, Coach, J.D. Palm, obviously he's going to have the matchup against Ayrton Page. Ayrton Page likes to, get on the glass, create second chance opportunities. But, just tell me a little bit more about Palm, what he brings to your team, and just, what are you seeing from him just from a growth perspective this year?
JD was young, and I'm saying age-wise, but young as far as how to play the game of basketball when we first got him. And so I'm seeing so much growth with JD as far as what he can contribute and what he can't contribute to the game. JD Palm, I've talked to NBA GMs, not GMs, but NBA scouts about Ace so far and JaMychal. But I tell them before I leave, I said our best pro prospect that could probably end up being the number 1 pick in the draft one day is going to be JD Palm. JD Palm's 6'10". Everything you see Ace can do, JD can do. He can shoot the ball, he can dribble the ball, all that stuff, he can pass the ball, so on and so forth. He's just not as basketball savvy as Ace is, but the raw potential, he has it. JD Palm is unbelievably off the charts with his skill set. He can dribble the ball, he can shoot the ball, he can block shots, he can rebound, he's athletic, he's fast. JD Palm is everything we need. And so right now, we just need JD Palm not to understand that the moment that he's about to walk into tomorrow night is the same moment he walked into in Duncanville. It's the same moment he walked into the first game of the year we played against Green Forest. It's the same game. And so when you start talking about guys who haven't been on this level on a regular basis, this is what's new for them. So that's why you got to have people like Jermichael Davis who can calm him down and can say, listen, big fella, this is what I need you to do. And that's what we're getting out of JD right now. We're getting a more composed, calm JD. Don't get me wrong, there's places in the game where JD kind of doesn't, he kind of does lose his focus, but he comes right back. And whatever we ask out of him, he's going to do. And he doesn't do it with arguing. He doesn't fuss. He doesn't complain. He just gets it done. And that's amazing for a kid that's top 15 in the country in his class to say, I'll accept anything you want me to do, coach. You got to love it. For us, it's just game 30 for us. I mean, that's
going up against Wheeler. It's going to have that kind of state championship feel to it.
It's not about just Wheeler. I mean, we understand that Wheeler's a great basketball team, but for us, it's just game 30 for us. I mean, that's how we look at it. It's game number 30 for us. And so, we didn't, it doesn't matter who's on the other side of game 30. We have to show up and play. And so that was all the purpose about playing all those tough games at the start of the year, is that so we can get to game 30 and be able to look at game 30 as game 30. And like I said, as long as we continue to do things like that and not focus on who the opponent is and get overwhelmed with that, but also just focus on being in control of us, I'm happy about it. I love this matchup, and this is a great matchup. The one thing I got to say about this matchup that I am upset about is I'm upset that this matchup has to happen in the Elite Eight and not in the Final Four of the championship side. And I believe that the state of Georgia has to do a better job at coming together and creating an opportunity to where they can have a selection committee and create a situation to where we can have a more parallel playoffs a scenario, so you get the games that people want at the right places. I mean, our game sold out in 5 minutes. This game sold
5 minutes, yeah.
It's sold out in 5 minutes. The game is sold out. I mean, we got students at the school who are upset because this game probably should have happened at the Macon, or should have happened at Georgia State, where they have more capacity to hold more people. So, like, I got college coaches hit me now, and they're trying to figure out how to get on the list. You guys froze up. Hello.
Yeah, you cut out, coach. Can you hear us, coach?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
I said this.
There's a couple minutes more.
Oh, you want me to do one?
Yeah, a couple of seconds. Yeah,
It should have happened. It should have been happening at Georgia State. This game sold out in 5 minutes. So we got students here, people in the community that can't come see this game. This game should be at Georgia State, where you can have the ample number of people to come watch this game. Or this game should be in Macon, where you have enough seating for the game. So this game, when you start talking about that, I mean, we got to get to the point where we're reseeding this thing when the playoff series happens, and we got to make sure, because all the region tournaments are over by Friday or Thursday the week before, so you can start the region play. I mean, you start the seeding on that.
That's the end of the clip. I think that was such an interesting point he makes. So even if you didn't have, let's say, the power rankings or a new form of seeding for the tournament, it's like, if the state of Georgia, the people that support high school basketball, the forces that be or whatever, if there was an arena set up within the state that in these big time matchups was just ready to step up and say, okay, we're looking at this bracket, we kind of know if these teams end up making it to the quarterfinals, they're going to pack it out, we'll step up as a venue. That's a different solution to getting more people exposed to this and allowing people that want to go to the game a chance to go. I think that's a solution too. Someone stepping up to be the host site for some of this. I think just with the year 2020 and how insane that was, with people having to cancel games a day before it, during COVID, all that, I think we've been stress test enough to where if there's a big matchup, we can find a nearby site that might not have anything going on that particular day. I know it is tough. You have to staff people. Venues don't just open and close. A lot goes into it. But I just think the opportunity for a bigger arena to host this doubleheader, I mean, it would have been insane. I don't know anyone at those schools that would not want to see this matchup. It really is going to be tremendous. And you just listen to the way he described his team, and that's what makes this matchup so interesting. Yeah, you have Isaiah Collier, but they have Jamichael, who he says is the head of the snake. 2 outstanding point guards, says the best in the state. Wheeler has Page down low, an absolute fast twitch. He can pass, he can finish at the rim, he can facilitate, he can rebound like crazy, block shots. He's going against J.D. Palm, the #1 sophomore center in the entire country, guy that Coach Ankrum says is going to be probably the top professional prospect out of this year's roster. He was offered by Alabama as a freshman. He's a sophomore now, 6'10". He's in obviously the biggest high school game he's been in yet. You have the fact that McEachern has dealt with some injuries. They were able to bring in Christian Curl, the sophomore point guard. I think that was the month of December. Now he's able to come in off the bench just with that experience. You have Moses Hips, their junior shooting guard. Calls him the best shooter in the state, best shooter on the team. Says he'll have practices where he doesn't even hit the rim. So anyone interested in the matchup, please go to Score Atlanta. Subscribe to our page. You can check out the interview that's at the end of the show. We also had a great interview with Jason Longshore, the voice of Atlanta United. He not only is the voice of Atlanta United calling all their games, he does a tremendous job going to as many high school soccer games and calling those that he can. And he just had such a wealth of knowledge with soccer overall, from the youth level to all the different leagues, and really just knows what's going on with Georgia High School. That was a great conversation too, and that's all on yesterday's episode of Underrated and Overlooked. But yeah, what's my pick for the game tonight? That's a good one. I'm actually, oh my gosh. Last night I was saying I'm going to go with McEachern, and I always start to go back and forth. It's so hard for me to pick against Isaiah Collier. Wheeler's been so dominant. I kind of like McEachern, though, at home. I think with Wheeler falling in last year's playoffs, we've seen a lot of these teams come back into 7A. Things look like they're going well, and then these 7A teams that might not be as highly ranked but have been in that classification year in and year out, kind of know what it takes. I would not be surprised if McEachern wins tonight, so I'm going to pick an upset. We'll see, though. What do you think about this game?
I did my video Monday. I'm going McEachern. They got two.
Oh, man, Najee is too.
Yeah, Moses Hips, like you said, best shooter. Jamichael Davis, kind of do it all point guard. And then you got Ace Bailey, who can match up with anybody.
Ace Bailey, yeah.
The match is going to be, as he said, the J.D. Palm versus the Ayrton Page. Ayrton Page kills you on the boards, but if J.D. Palm can kind of neutralize him, not allow second chance opportunities, I think the kids can win the game.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think it is going to be, the Page-Palm matchup. Can the sophomore, because Page in that Newton game was such a big factor. They can't let him go off. But if Palm gets going, I think it will be, gosh, what a great matchup. So we'll see. And Coach Ankrum really kind of gave me confidence in the matchup just talking about it. He had a great playing career, played at USC, same team that Collier's going to, played in the NCAA tournament and had some big performances. Also in that interview, he's talking about going up against guys like Jason Kidd back in the day, but I think he just knows how to handle the moment, has that kind of calm attitude that reminded me of Coach Boone Williams at Hughes all season. I mean, just playing tough game after tough game, but cool and collected, managing a lot of talent, but really seeing his team connect and come together and really just elevate the state with how well they're playing. So he was confident, had me feeling good. So, man, that game's going to tip off in several hours. It's going to be outstanding. But let's go ahead. We'll take one more quick break. I'm going to text Jordan right now, and we'll get him on the show.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are our Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. And I think he was saying that the game might be broadcasted on public access, some channel. I will definitely try to find that out. It's just crazy. There's all these weird websites when you search a high school game. It's like, click here to stream it live, and it's like God only knows what you're clicking on with all these spam accounts. But we'll try to get out that information, figure that out. Yeah, it's like when the tweet misspells the word tournament, I don't think it's a legitimate link, but we will see. But we'll go ahead, get Jordan on, ask him what he's looking forward to tonight and what he's seen in the playoffs so far. Jordan, what's going on?
Nothing much. How are you guys?
I'm doing well. So we were just highlighting this McEachern and Wheeler matchup, and one of the big guys is going to be a McEachern sophomore center, his #1 center in the country. His name is J.D. Palm. So J.D., Jordan Dubrof, made me think of you. So what do you think about J.D. Palm, J.D., and the Indians going up against Wheeler at home tonight?
It's going to be a great matchup tonight. I'm looking forward to it. I think McEachern can pull off the W tonight against Wheeler. It's going to be a high-intensity game. It's going to be like a state championship game over there at McEachern tonight.
Yeah, and it's hard to even put into context what the equivalent of this is, because we'll see some big football matchups last year. That Mill Creek and Buford game, there's like 15,000 people there. It was insane. I saw like a drone footage. That was a televised game.
Yeah.
But with basketball, it's a small arena. I feel like they could have gotten so many people to come to this matchup. Their coach, McEachern's coach, Tremaine Ankrum, said it sold out in 5 minutes. What do you think about just how loud and electric that atmosphere is going to be?
It's going to be really loud. I don't know if the players will be able to hear themselves on the court. Same with the coaches. It's going to be super loud in McEachern's arena tonight. But I think they should have hosted it at like Georgia Tech or somewhere in order to get more fans to come.
Yeah, I think it's a unique situation. I mean, with these two teams and selling out in 5 minutes, like as I was pointing out, there's football games. I mean, Valdosta Lowndes always going to get a ton of people. There's some big games, the Buford Mill Creek, but this game, you aren't going to get a high school basketball game early in the playoffs or at any point that's going to demand this much interest. I just think the capacity is, I mean, selling out in 5 minutes, they could have really sold a lot of tickets this game, but nonetheless, should be outstanding. But who do you think the winner of this is going to have a good chance, or do you still like teams like Norcross, Newton, Grayson? Man, they've had a ton of big wins. They're playing Walton tonight. You got Cherokee up against Carrollton. I mean, what do you think of 7A right now?
7A basketball is tough, same like football. Basketball has been really great for 7A, and they have a bunch of powerhouse in 7A this year.
100%. We were talking yesterday about the Walton. Speaking of football, I mean, Walton and Grayson, they're opening next year against each other. Walton's going to be playing at Grayson, well, actually at Archer, because Grayson's arena is flooded. But what do you think Walton's mindset is going into this matchup? Having the #4 seed, having this great run, but going up against Grayson, I said I think the only way they're going to win is that they just shoot a ton of three-pointers and get hot and just have one of those games. But what do you think that game's going to be like tonight, Walton and Grayson?
It's going to be a great matchup against for them in basketball tonight. Walton just need to get out to a quick start, get some three-pointers up, and we'll see what happens from there for the Walton-Grayson game. But I think Walton can pull off the W and advance to the Final Four.
100%. And then Grovetown, I think that's an interesting team. They're the one that won the state title last year. They're going to have to go on the road to Lanier, though, to the Ranch. And from what I've seen, Lanier's had a lot of success. I think they have two great forwards down low. I mean, how big would that be, just a defending state champ going on the road against Lanier? Do you think Grovetown's going to be able to get it done, or can Lanier kind of pull off this upset as one of the few teams that has the size to match up with Grovetown?
I think Grovetown can pull it off tonight. They look really good on paper. We'll just have to wait and see what happens early in the game and late in the game, if they can hold the lead and see if they can make it to the Final Four and even to the state championship coming up.
Yep, and it looks like at this point there's two schools that have a chance to potentially sweep titles this year, win it on both boys and girls. That's Norcross, McEachern, and Kell. Do you see any of them being able to get it done? I think Kell might be able to do it this year.
I have to agree with you. I think Kell is going to be able to do it.
Yeah, they
have a great
really good
program.
Yeah, for sure. And then let's look ahead to the semifinals, though. I think we're going to try to go down on Saturday early to catch the 4A down at Fort Valley State. What do you think overall just about what the semifinals are going to be like? It's going to be Friday and Saturday, going on pretty much at the same time in a lot of cases, but just those 2 days of basketball, playing for a chance to – I mean, what's interesting to me is like the first 4 rounds basically of the basketball, it's just boom, boom, boom. You only get like 1 or 2 days off. Then if you're 7A, you finally get that week. I mean, getting this close to a state title, I mean, how epic is the semifinals going to be this weekend?
All the players are going to be excited that are going to be playing in the semifinal. Some teams are going to be missing out over this weekend on the semifinals that won't be able to advance on. And it's going to be a great matchup all weekend long for Georgia high school basketball.
Yeah, we'll have to get some content also. I mean, I haven't gotten to see too much, but just there's been a ton of buzzer beaters, obviously great dunks, huge blocks. It's just great basketball all around. What do you think, though? Let's see. A big matchup on the 3A girls side. I don't know if you heard us earlier. Hebron Christian, I think they're the only undefeated team left. There's still some schools that haven't lost within the state, but Hebron's going to be playing against Wesleyan. And let me pull up real quick because I know they've both won quite a bit of state titles.
Yep.
Yeah, Wesleyan has won 13 girls state titles in basketball. Hebron won back in 2021. This would be a chance for their first ever undefeated season. Do you think the Wesleyan Hebron might be one of the better matchups on the girls' side this weekend?
I think it will be one of the best matchup on the girls' side. I think Hebron Christian can pull off the W, and they'll be looking at a chance to make it down to Macon the following weekend.
Yeah, 100%. And so another reason I brought that up, they're going to be at Fort Valley State Friday. We'll be there on Saturday. So Seth will actually be there for that matchup, and it's incredible. And then on the other side, you have defending state champion Lumpkin County against Calvary Day. That will be really fun to watch. What else do you want to go over, though? I was talking about how you saw Coach Bruner the other day. You got to talk
Yeah.
to him. Have you heard about their new offensive lineman they got?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, so
I've
Daniel,
not heard about
Daniel Calhoun from Centennial. He's going to be a senior this season, I believe. Let me double check that. But he's the number
I
one
know they're
offensive tackle. Yeah, he'll be a senior this next year. 6'6", 350 pounds. He came over from Centennial. He's going to be on that offensive line now. Number 3 tackle in the country. I mean,
nice.
how good do you think Walton's going to be next year with the biggest offensive tackle besides, I think, Juan Gaston at Westlake now on that offensive line?
It's going to be amazing to see what Walton offense can do with the new addition of that guy. I think
It really is.
Walton's going to do big things this year coming up for football. And for their spring game, they're going to be scrimmaging Roswell for their spring game, I heard.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good insight right there. Yeah, Roswell's got tons of pieces coming back too. Interesting. But yeah, I just think with Walton, it's like last year they were so good offensively, but no one thought of them as a physically dominant team. But now they have an offensive lineman with the physical presence that, I mean, I haven't seen on a Walton offensive line. They have great offensive line play. A lot of them go on to play at the next level. Really smart guys. Some go to Ivy League schools, but now it's like this guy is just a bulldozer. He's been offered by Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, Arkansas, 26 overall offers. I just think that's one of the biggest storylines of the offseason, I think, is Walton getting Daniel Calhoun. But maybe that's why Coach Bruner was smiling.
It's going to be amazing what he does this year.
Right? Yeah, and he'll be here before we know it. Spring scrimmage against Roswell, that'll be interesting. I might go out and see Daniel Calhoun, what he's all about. But I'm definitely happy he's a Raider.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Jordan, I'll talk to you in a bit. Great stuff. We'll have a lot of basketball to look forward to tonight and this weekend, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. All right, so there you have it. Once again, Score Atlanta on YouTube, underrated and overlooked. Great episode yesterday. You can check out those interviews. Najee's going to be back tomorrow to recap this boys' action tonight. He'll obviously be talking about this Wheeler-McEachern game, what goes down in that. That's Keeping It Real with Najee Wilkins at 2 o'clock p.m. Always do that. And then I'll be back on Friday to talk about the semifinals, and we'll definitely have a guest on for that. But thanks so much for joining us, and have a good one.